Well, Celtic won the Premiership title by 4 points last season. We are now that number clear this season. We didn't really want to wait until this evening because we're bursting at the seams and wanting to chat about stuff. So we're not waiting. We're coming to you at 2 o'clock. Thanks if you're watching us live. There's already over 100 of you filing in to see us chat about Celtic. Probably a little bit more on Celtic as well. There's plenty to get our teeth into, John.
Yeah, it's been a good weekend, actually, in lots of respects. I think, coming out of a match like yesterday, for me, not just unharmed, but like actually extending our lead at the top of the table feels like a big moment. Now, obviously, the caveat is that there's obviously a long way to go in the Scottish Premiership. It's far too early to be celebrating anything. But, you do feel big moments at times along the way in title races and in league runs. And it felt like yesterday was fairly significant because, our game at Tynecastle easily could have gone another way. It seemed to be one of those chaotic days that might have gone against us. And arguably could, end up being one of our most chaotic afternoons of the entire season. So for Celtic to come out of it unscathed is fantastic. And then followed up with a bit of drama at Ibrox as well was more than perfect for us. So definitely happy this afternoon.
I was thinking back, looking at yesterday afternoon in our game, and you almost couldn't have scripted it better. I mean, I'd have loved to have gone there and won 4-0, 5-0, but the way it worked with all of that stuff kind of going against us yesterday, and yet we still found a way to win in dramatic circumstances. I honestly don't think I would have changed that game at all yesterday, as stressful as it was at the time.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have the constitution for it, to be frank with you, every week. But I think now and again, it's good to have a bit of drama. I think it gets everyone's hearts pumping a little bit. And I think you saw it from Ange at the end as well. He seemed delighted with it. He seemed delighted with it and seemed really ready to share that excitement and that, exhilaration with the supporters after the game. He has said, and people are already saying it in the chat, Ange always talks about the roller coaster, and I actually gave that, he gave that in an answer to me last season when we were going into those last, 10 or so games. He predicted a roller coaster, and he enjoys giving that analogy, and I think yesterday was a perfect example of it. He even said after the match in his BBC interview, he would prefer to win 4-3 than 1-0. So I think, Postecoglou was the happiest man in Scotland yesterday, I would suggest.
There was, I think the first question that he was asked by the Celtic TV reporter was, that can't have been an easy one for you to watch, and you probably didn't enjoy the frantic nature. And I feel like that's one of the examples of questions people just ask. And if I was asking Ange, I probably would have said that. But Ange actually said, I don't really mind it. I quite enjoy games like that. Now, obviously, he'd much rather we were defending much better than we did yesterday, not giving away penalties. But I think, Ange wants to win. That's the main thing. But Ange wants people talking about his team, and I guess a part of that is talking about matches and remembering matches. And you're going to remember a game like yesterday, a 4-3 win, for ages. I honestly think yesterday is a game we'll look back, not even just the end of this season, but in years to come and go, God, mind that time we won 4-3 at Tynecastle.
And look, everyone's going to talk about the VAR, and to a degree that's expected given what occurred. But I think overall what you're taking out of that game is just the absolute resilience of that team and the spirit that team showed yesterday. Because I thought there was a good response to all of the goals Hearts scored. It would never looked like, I know Robbie Neilson came out with his daft, absolutely rattled chat after the game, but I don't think we ever looked particularly rattled. I know they scored a few goals and it was an exciting game. Celtic never collapsed, and they always fought their way back into the game, and I thought that was really impressive actually. And I think that, if we're remembering this game a few years down the line, I think that's what we'll remember about this game more than anything, is that Celtic overcame a bit of chaos to get the win and pick up all 3 points. Robbie Neilson wasn't a victor yesterday, despite, any kind of positivity he's taken out of the match.
And despite the fact he claps like that, which is totally bizarre. Have you seen that?
No, I don't know.
It's totally mad. He was doing it again yesterday when the VAR chalked off or we didn't get the handball penalty. Totally bizarre. So that's another reason I'm glad we beat them. It reminds me a little bit, and not just because it's the same scoreline, but of the Motherwell game under Brendan Rodgers and the Invincible season. In that, we were up against everything yesterday. We're behind twice. Yeah, we went behind once, because it went 2-1, then it went 3-2 to us. So we're still behind. It was a frantic match, very much like the Motherwell game all those years ago. And the reason that I feel so similarly about them both is even at the dark times in that match, I mean, yesterday, 2-1 down, we're struggling, Hearts are kind of rampant, they have that chance from Devlin that he kind of volleys over the bar. At that stage, it was looking a bit hairy. I always felt Celtic would score at least one more goal, and I kind of always felt at 3-3 we were going to win that game. I don't know if you agree with that at all, but it reminds me a lot of that Motherwell game in that we just have so much quality and so much resolve to win matches.
I mean, it just always felt that there was a lot of time left in the match to get back into, even when it felt like things were swinging against us. You always give, Celtic a shouting chance of swinging it back in our favour, especially at the domestic level. And I think going into Tynecastle, I never go into a Tynecastle game thinking, this is going to be a walk in the park. I always go into Tynecastle games, regardless of the state of Hearts. And I know they've had some poor periods over the years, and I know they've struggled this season with the demands of going from European to league football. But I always go to Tynecastle thinking, this is going to be a battle today. It's going to be difficult. And Celtic are going to have to show a bit of grit and determination to get a win, and so the way the game panned out, I was never stressed or annoyed about the way the game panned out. I was just delighted that Celtic managed to find a way to win, because that's what we have to do sometimes. And ultimately, it's matches like yesterday. It's the stupid cliche, but ultimately matches like yesterday, extend winning runs and deliver the points that pick up a league title.
Yeah, I mean, the win yesterday put us 5 clear. We then were pegged back to 4 clear yesterday afternoon. It's kind of hard to ignore, I think, what's going on across the city at the moment. They are struggling badly. I mean, their fans are not happy at all. And as much as that's not going to impact what happens at Celtic Park, we know that. It's a very kind of singular mind. I think as supporters, it's all right to look at the overall situation. And yeah, it's only 4 points. They've not actually dropped too many points this season other than at Celtic Park. But, this is a good situation Celtic are in at the moment. And if we can just get through or over a few kind of tricky-looking hurdles between now and the World Cup, especially with, McGregor still out, which I don't think we're as good a team when Callum McGregor's not there. Livingston next week, for example. We've got Fir Park coming up as well, home games that are tough as well. If we can come through these matches and win them, at the very least we're going to be 4 clear going into the World Cup. And when you factor in what's going on across the city and the fact that they're struggling badly, I think it's all right to feel quite good about ourselves at the moment. Domestically, at least.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think, they are only 4 points behind, but the way they're going on, it's like, complete Armageddon over there. That's the way they're going on about how they feel about Giovanni Van Bronckhorst and the direction of their team. So I think over there it's more about the feeling that they're all feeling about their team. And, if you speak to any Rangers supporter or look anywhere on the Rangers internet at the moment, it's just absolutely fuming and that they need a change. I think they're, even in the wins, they're saying that their performances haven't been good enough even when they have been winning, and obviously they've had their struggles in Europe too. So they're kind of stuck in a rut at the moment, and I don't know, and I've said this on the channel before, I don't think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst maybe has the charisma or the strength of presence to turn that around when it gets to this kind of situation. Ange Postecoglou last year did start to turn around, the doubters and that last season, but I think he did that, because of the kind of person he is, and I'm not sure, for all of Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has achieved so much in the game as a player, I'm not sure if he has that kind of leadership necessarily as a manager to kind of come through this period and turn it around. But you never know in football, you never know. And that's, ultimately I think the Rangers board will probably be looking at that and hoping that it turns around somehow. Maybe some sort of blind hope, but just hoping that it does manage to turn around, because it doesn't seem like they're going to be making any drastic moves anytime soon. So it's a bit similar to when we had Lennon in that season, and it just all kind of dragged on, and the fans were fuming for ages and nobody acted at the club, and it all just kind of fizzled out. So be interesting to see how that goes.
That's very much how it feels to me. That was a miserable time to be a Celtic fan. That obviously had all the COVID stuff, but even just keeping it to the stuff on the pitch, we could all tell probably around this time in the year actually that we were not going to win the league with Neil Lennon in charge that season, and yet it just got worse and worse. So as a Celtic fan, hopefully that's what's going to happen across the city, and hopefully they're going to stick with it, because I know a kind of team on the rocks when I see it, and they are on the rocks at the moment, and we just need to keep winning. We don't actually play them for a wee while, so we just need to keep winning matches, and I feel quite kind of confident in Celtic and them doing that at the moment, but then again I felt confident prior to St Mirren, and look at the way that went. So hopefully we've just learned from that and can kind of grind out results, because we have been grinding them out recently. We've really not been convincing. I know we if you keep it to the league, we beat Hibs last weekend, but Motherwell at home was ground out, St Johnstone away ground out, yesterday very much ground out with late goals. So we just need to keep going, and every victory I guess just kind of piles more pressure on them.
Yeah, and it's not like we've not had our own problems to seek either. I mean, in losing McGregor and Jota, I essentially think we've lost two of our best players, or at least two of our most influential players on the way that Celtic play. And one of the things I wanted to talk about today was Ange has found solutions to that. In a way, domestically at least. He's dropped deeper. He's dropped O'Reilly deeper in the midfield. He's brought Moy into it. I think over the last week, Moy over the last 3 games has been pretty effective in that kind of more forward role. I know there were issues in the midfield yesterday. And in terms of counteracting Hearts when they had possession of the ball, but I thought in possession the midfield was effective yesterday. I think Hatate's really improved over the last since McGregor's been out.
I think he's grown into it. Yeah, he's
grown into it, but I think he's also realised that he has to take a little bit more responsibility with McGregor being out. I think O'Reilly has adapted well in many ways to that kind of number 6 role. Perhaps not as effective as McGregor, but you would never expect him to. And again, as I say, Moy, this is, I think the last 3 games are Moy's first consecutive starts of the season. And I think it's decent. He's getting time to build into the team. And Ange has found a solution here. I think with Jota, I think bringing Haksabanovic into things has given us more balance in our attack when he's been starting as well, because I think the thing about Jota is he's a ball carrier, and I think Haksabanovic has that technical ability to do that. He's not just a runner, he's not just someone who's just pressing like Maeda and Abada. So you look from the summer, Hamish, and a lot of people have been saying, was our work in the transfer window really that good, and did we really do what we needed to do? But I think if you look at Moy and you look at Haksabanovic, 2 players who have come in and helped stem the problems of McGregor and Jota's absence, I think you would say, that's been effective from Ange, and that's worked well for us.
And these were signings that we didn't even as fans really feel we needed. Certainly Haksabanovic kind of came out of nowhere. Abelgard did as well. I think if those signings hadn't have been made, we wouldn't have been too unhappy at the end of the window. So again, it's more evidence of Ange just having far more of a clue than any of us. But the thing is, as always, the case with Ange, he says these things, and at the start of the window he said, paraphrasing, I want to get more bodies in, more quality in, so that we don't have a repeat of what happened last season in those winter months when we had various youth players and filling in positions, and he's done that. And yes, I think we're definitely a weaker team without McGregor and Jota. I'm not going to say we're not, but these signings that have come in, I think Haksabanovic is an absolute star, but I think that there's more to come from him as well. I think Moy, yesterday, Moy's involved in all 4 goals. And I didn't even think... I didn't think we had a single real standout yesterday. I was chatting to Stephen, I was saying, who would you give your man of the match to? And we're kind of scratching our head going, Hatate's been kind of all right, but he's given the ball away at times. Moy's been decent. Giakoumakis got his goal, but I don't think there was, a standout player who didn't put a foot wrong yesterday. I think what you saw in yesterday's victory was so many players, 7 or 8 of them having big moments in the match. 4 different scorers yesterday. First goal, Ralston makes it, Forrest scores it. Wouldn't say either of them did much else in the game, to be honest. Forrest didn't really, but he gets a goal, which is amazing. Second goal, Moy crosses and Giakoumakis heads it in. That was my favourite goal of the day. That was just, brilliant. Giakoumakis, again, did nothing yesterday, but gets a big goal at a big time, and that's why you have your strikers. And third goal, Maeda, who may actually have been my man of the match based on yesterday, scores. And then the winner is Abada, Moy, and then Greg Taylor at the back post. And you look at the 3 goals yesterday from open play, and they're all basically kind of tap-ins. They're certainly close range, but none of them are your striker. One's your left back, one's your left winger, and one's your right winger. And that's everything Ange wants in his team. He wants players getting into goal-scoring positions. So again, you're just seeing the identity of Ange's team because I look at yesterday's performance, I wouldn't particularly say that was a Postecoglou Celtic performance in terms of, long extended phases of possession play, or we didn't really get the quick throw-ins going, the quick corners. But even when that isn't happening, and even when it's frantic, there was still real parts of Ange's team that got us over the line.
Well, it's the different parts of Ange's team that we saw at times last season. I think going, and fans will nitpick and be frustrated when it it's not all comfortable and a breeze and you can just relax. But the reality is, when even domestically, even though we have a massive, advantage in lots of respects in terms of resources, it's not going to be every week where we just absolutely dominate the game, dominate possession. It's going to be comfortable with us. There's going to be teams who come along and manage to disrupt us in somehow. But the important thing is that Celtic find a way, in spite of that disruption. And I think you're right there in terms of when that happens, what you need is the team to come together and just almost will themselves to a victory. And I think that's what happened yesterday in many respects. And you need certain personalities and certain players in that kind of system to do that. And I think Moy has that bit of grit and determination. I know he's a quiet guy. I know he's not, fantastic with the media, etc. But on the pitch, he has that grit and determination.
Watch him when Greg Taylor's goal goes in. He's the one with the most wild celebrations, and he's a quiet guy apparently.
Yeah, but Ange knows what he offers in a football match, and that's what Ange cares about ultimately. I think bringing Greg Taylor on yesterday was an inspired substitution because I know Bernabei didn't have his best game, but at the same time, Bernabei's still learning, and he's coming into the team and going away to Tynecastle for the first time. I thought, as soon as I seen the team sheet yesterday, I was thinking this might be a difficult day for Bernabei. Yeah. And it was, unfortunately. But, Ange recognised that, brings Taylor on, who is an absolute leader in that dressing room. He's actually one of the de facto captains. I think there's a leadership group within that dressing room. And I know Ange Postecoglou made Cameron Carter-Vickers the captain after, Cal McGregor's absence. But he said he did that because Carter-Vickers is a different type of leader in that team, in the sense that, he leads by example almost. But as he explained that decision, he also name-checked Joe Hart, he also name-checked Greg Taylor, he also name-checked, Josip Juranovic as, vocal leaders in that dressing room. And I think bringing on Taylor in that moment was a fantastic decision. And obviously, even with or without the goal, it was probably the right decision. But, Taylor actually showing the willingness and just absolute desire to get on the end of that ball and put it in the back of the net from close range was fantastic.
So, Greg Taylor, Player of the Year. Are you going to start that campaign now?
Again, it's early, but he's one of the contenders at this stage. If you're looking at this, first chunk of the season, this first quarter or whatever it is of the season, the first fifth of the season, I think Taylor is certainly up there for me, because I think he just exemplifies everything that this Ange team needs to be. Not just in terms of skill and playing well, on the ball, but obviously showing that determination and spirit to pick up results.
Something I neglected to mention in yesterday's video coming in here. Hart had some vital saves yesterday when we really needed them. The one that I remember was from Snodgrass early on, and I think, if I'm right in saying, I think we actually go up the other end and score straight from that. So right. That was a big moment.
A big moment, and actually Hart's had a few saves since his big error. And it was an error, and you can't hide away from that. But I actually think he's been good since that. He's actually, pulled out some stops when we really needed them. And, goalkeepers must be absolutely buzzing when they make a save and the team goes up the other end and scores, because it just absolutely, it just boosts what they've just managed to do. So that was fantastic too.
Right, I'm going to try and get through some comments because there's a hell of a lot of you watching us right now. Mazar is always worth listening to. The belief that this team has is frightening. Celtic teams gone by would have folded with the way things went against us. Massive credit to Ange on instilling that never stop mentality into the team.
Fully agree with that. I mean, that's exactly what I'm trying to get across here, is that I never felt yesterday that Celtic team collapsed. In fact, the challenges that came along for us in the game, whether it was goals, whether it was whatever, actually Celtic had good responses to them. We're probably going to have to touch on it just briefly, but the VAR stuff was crazy yesterday. For me, I think overall, the one problem I have with VAR coming into Scotland, I think we've seen it this weekend, is how much time it's taken out of the game.
Far too long. And I felt yesterday, even the Ralston goal that
And the problem there was the officiating, in terms of Nick Walsh blowing the whistle too early. And that somehow stopping a VAR check because, that goal should have stood, frankly.
Even that, I don't get that because Craig Gordon still dives.
Yeah, exactly. But, ultimately I felt that VAR check went on a bit too long. See, before that, the two teams were going at each other. It was end to end. It was pretty thrilling stuff. That first VAR check just sucked all the life out of that game in that first half, and it didn't really recover until the second half. And that's a problem for me. When you look at all the games in the Scottish Premiership this weekend, not just our game, the injury time in each game was utterly ridiculous. I'm sure it adds up to something like 45 minutes to an hour across all the matches of injury time in the games. And that's what's troubling for me, is that if we don't really have the skill set behind the technology to make quick decisions or decisive decisions, then I think this might be quite ill-suited to Scottish football. In many ways, and it's not just about the technology itself, but I just don't have a really very good feeling after this first weekend. Obviously, people are going on about teething problems, etc. I don't really buy that as an excuse because Scottish football's not an early adopter of this. Like, this has been in place in leagues across the world for ages, and so I think they just need to get a grip. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, they didn't take long over the handball one, though, did they? That was a pretty speedy one, which I would suggest is interesting.
I don't even know if that got checked, Hamish.
But that's what I mean, though. I mean,
I don't know if that's confirmed that's been checked. I don't know if the Abada one's been confirmed it's been checked because they never showed a graphic of the offside lines.
Even like the broadcasters and that seemed a bit off it yesterday, which I found surprising. They weren't really showing many replays. I just felt like the whole thing was bizarre, and it just seemed like we got a lot of kind of close in on referees with their finger to their ear, and you never really see that in European ones.
We needed to see the lines of that Abada one, and it's quite bizarre to me that they weren't shown for whatever reason. I don't know if that was a technical problem, but they needed to show the lines of that Abada one. Ultimately, I think a few decisions did get made correctly, but it's just... This is just going to be a palaver, and I don't know if I can really be bothered with it, frankly. I mean, even us speaking about it here, I feel like we've spent too much time talking about it, but it feels inevitable, and I feel it just takes something away from the game. Sadly, in some way.
Hopefully it is just a horrendous opening weekend, and maybe as time goes on, I'm just optimistic, John. Maybe as time goes on it'll get easier. The worry for me from yesterday over anything was that the basic refereeing was really poor. I mean, the decisions the referee just in our game that Nick Walsh was getting wrong. I mean, I know there's a bit of debate about the laws of handball, and I mentioned that in yesterday's video. But for me, 2 Stonewall penalties in the first half, and he gives neither of them. And I just find it also. I hope that referees aren't now refereeing the game differently. In theory, they shouldn't referee. They shouldn't make decisions differently. They should just, still give decisions, and then VAR should be used as a kind of crutch if things have gone wrong. It shouldn't be a case of, right, I'm not going to give that penalty because then VAR might look at it and give it. And I felt there was a bit of that going on yesterday. Yeah,
there was a yellow card given to Montesiens as well that I was just completely baffled by, frankly. But anyway, we'll move on from all that part. A lot of people have said a lot of things about that. I don't want to extend it too much because I do think people will eventually just turn against it and be completely bored by the whole thing. But I think, obviously in the first weekend you have to acknowledge it a wee bit.
Yeah, Paul's saying, Ange saying that only time we get a penalty is in training. Ange, I think, was interesting. Yeah,
Ange is interesting. Ange very rarely complained about referees since he arrived in Scotland. The only time I can remember I'm really having a go was when Ideguchi got injured against Oalawa.
And he wasn't protecting the player.
Yeah, he criticised Don Robertson for not protecting the players. And then yesterday when he was kind of... But you know what I think he was annoyed about yesterday? I think he was annoyed about David Martindale's comments on Friday or Thursday when David Martindale said that he thinks VAR coming in will help Livingston against Celtic and Rangers. And I think that's who his comments were aimed at in the post-match. Obviously, I can't confirm that because I'm just reading into it. But the way I read into it, that he's annoyed with David Martindale because he basically said, hopefully other managers realise that VAR isn't, a magic thing that's going to help their team, and that, people keep saying that, Celtic get everything, but the only penalty we've taken this season is in training. I really think it was directed at David Martindale, so that might be interesting this week when we play Livingston.
A frosty handshake, perhaps, next Sunday. The only time, having watched Ange games, that he seems to get really frustrated with officials is when they don't give advantages and stuff like that, and they really kind of stop the game and slow it down. So I sense that VAR may not be his favourite thing if it does slow games down like yesterday. Yeah. But I mean, yesterday, ended up in a good game. But we'll move on for VAR because we've spoken about it far too long. The week to come, we've got Shakhtar on Tuesday night and then Livingston next Sunday. Team-wise for Tuesday night, a sense we might kind of see the midweek squad back in, the likes of Juranovic, Taylor, Kyogo, Haksabanovic perhaps starting again, and actually feel they're quite well suited for European football. And then going into Livingston next Sunday, you'll have maybe Giakoumakis, Ralston, Maida back in from the start, and they offer, I think, some quite kind of desirable attributes for Livy away as well.
Yeah, I think it seems like Ange has split his squad into two units. He sent in the wingers and the attackers especially, and maybe has 4 or 5 that play together with the midfielders and defenders, and then another 4 or 5 who play with the midfield and defenders. So I think the midfield on Tuesday will probably be Moy, O'Reilly and Hatate, and then I think with the 2 defenders and Hart, and then, like you say, I think it'll be Taylor, Juranovic, I think it'll be Haksabanovic, Abada maybe, and then Kyogo as well. And that seems like the 11 to me that will play against Shakhtar. I think the Shakhtar game, I know we're out the Champions League. I know everyone has had a bit of a collective, roll of the eyes of the Champions League campaign. But I think it's a big game. I think I think the support need a strong performance and a win to show that we can pick up points in a Champions League group. I think there's a big perception issue there for this team and the manager. Do you agree with that?
And 100%. Not even just that. Money wise, a victory is worth a couple of million, something like that. 3 million even. It'll go up every time. And coefficient points. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot on the line.
You know what as well. Just if we beat Shakhtar, I know it's very unlikely that we'll pick up any sort of point or anything at the Bernabeu. In the final match. But at least we bring it into it, and at least we can have, the team can build towards, putting in an important, effective performance in the Bernabeu, which will be important for them as much as anything. So I do think a win. I know we're out of the Champions League, but this kind of slight, tenuous link to the Europa League and all the things that you've just mentioned, and just the perception of the support, etc. I think Tuesday is a bigger game than perhaps some people realise.
I was quite worried about it after the Leipzig game. It really felt as if, those final 2 matches were going to be a complete damp squib. But I think going into Tuesday night, I've sensed it, amongst my kind of pals about the game, that people are really up for this game. I think there's going to be real expectation in the team, though, given how we played in the away game. In Poland against Shakhtar, we were the far better team. I think we're going to go into the game with some real expectation at this level, which I think is it can be a good thing, but a dangerous thing as well when you consider that we're sitting in 1 point and Shakhtar have got 5. But a real opportunity for us. I mean, when you look at that away game and the fact we should have won that game, not just 2-1, but 3 or 4-1 based on those chances, when you put it back to Glasgow and Celtic Park in a full house, I think it's a real opportunity for Celtic to get a big victory. I think it would be massive for this group of players. It would give us something to take away from this campaign, even if we finish 4th. I think it's big, financially, coefficient-wise, could be invaluable. But I think for the support as well, seeing us win at this level would just be massive, even, as I say, if we finish 4th. And as you say as well, going into match day 6, even for people like myself going to Madrid, just having a bit of excitement about it, because it might happen, but going to Madrid just with the whole thing dead just seems a bit rubbish, doesn't it?
Are you going? Last time I heard your flights got cancelled. Have you managed to swing that back in your favour?
Don't go there.
Yeah, okay.
Don't ever go with KLM, anyone.
But seriously, I'm not going to lie. I'm going into Tuesday wanting a win. I am. That's 100%. What I'm. I mean, even the Leipzig game that came, I was kind of it's going to be difficult. Leipzig are a really good team, and it might not go our way. But I'm going into Tuesday and thinking, no, I want to win this game, and I think Celtic are capable of winning this game. And you know what, Celtic win this game. Obviously, it might not go away, and I'm not trying to disrespect Shakhtar there. I'm not trying to, because they've got more points than us in the group. They've shown they can play well away from home against good teams. I mean, they beat Leipzig away for goodness sake. So it's not like they're no hopers turning up. But I just think Celtic on the top of their game. We've got a little bit to prove here, and hopefully the players manage to prove it.
Stevie just texted me, said he's happy with a 1-1 draw on Tuesday night, so apparently that's his new thing he's doing. He didn't really text me, everyone. Don't send him pelters. I think we've got kind of pre-match stuff, don't we? We are speaking to Ange tomorrow. Will that be?
Yeah, that'll be tomorrow. Yeah, you better book a train. No, but you were at the pre-match with Ange, and that's good. I think it's going to be our last pre-match, our last media appearance until after the World Cup break. Is that right? Just the way the rota's shaking out.
Possibly. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to hear what Ange's saying. I don't think it'll be too different from what everyone else is feeling. I think he'll think, Tuesday night is a massive opportunity for the team. Just like, as I say, we might finish fourth, but just having that collective moment, I think, at full time with the support and the players having won a match at Champions League group stage level in itself would be a major improvement on where we were on 12 months ago. And we've not won in the group stage in 9 years as well. So I think we're on, I hate to say it, I think we're on like the worst kind of home losing run in Champions League history. So all of these things that I feel have to be ended soon. And I just think Tuesday night is a real good opportunity for us, given how the first match went. Yeah,
I think, what was our only win against away to Anderlecht? Is that right, in that time period you're talking about? Yeah. So we need
home win.
We need a home win. No, I got your point. I was just actually double checking. Because we got beat by Anderlecht at home, if I recall correctly, that really burst the bubble of that European season. So, it was a big game. Looking forward to it, excited about it, and hopefully get the job done.
Livy next weekend, how are you feeling about that?
I think it'll be difficult. I mean, I watched a large chunk of that game yesterday, and they really did the job on Rangers. But it goes to I hope. And I think we have done that successfully, because we got turned over by them at the Tony Macaroni last season, and then we went back there later in the season and got the job done, and it felt like we adapted our tactics to do that. And so I can't see us going there and being filtered into the wide positions and sticking in 70 crosses. I think we'll be a little bit more diverse than that, a little bit cleverer than that, or at least I hope so. I mean, if we go there and get forced into hitting 70 crosses into the box like Rangers did yesterday, then it could be a long day. I'm not, but hopefully we manage to show a little bit more nous than that. Let's say
2 wins this week would be complete magic, wouldn't it? You would just you would feel so good after 2 wins and really send us into the Bernabeu with something to play for. Let's just have a wee look at the league table just before we go. Looking nice there, 4 clear. I know we lost that game at St Mirren, but amazing form at the start of the season. I feel as if people should be talking a wee bit more about that. I mean, effectively, we've played a full round of fixtures. I know we've not played the Livingston home game yet, but 10 wins and just that 1 defeat. I mean, keep that form up, John, and you're looking at, over 100 points?
Yeah, but look up, you even that defeat at St Mirren, look at where St Mirren are, for goodness sake. They've done really so well in this first round of fixtures too, so that wasn't an easy place to go in the context of the way the season's gone so far. So I think the league's going pretty well from my perspective. I know there've been a couple of perhaps tighter games than people expect, but that's the name of the game. That is football. You can't get bogged down in that. It's all about winning. It's all about putting together a string of performances that leaves everyone happy at the end of the season.
Excellent. Right, we shall leave it there. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. As I say, tomorrow we should have some stuff with Ange, so keep an eye out for that.